sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, spiritual and physical. Get right to this lesson, sisters and brothers. You know, because most of the things, the lesson I put together is because people have taught them wrong and they simply don't understand. The world is confused. And what the world is confused mostly about is the law. You hear people say the law is done away with. And you have people say, you know, that when Christ died on the cross, that was the end of the law. Well, it was the end of the law. But we're going to show you which one. But I figure the best way to separate, because you got two laws that are conflicted. People don't know when they are talking about the one or the other, and that is the law of animal sacrifice, and the other one is the law, God's royal law, his commandments. And the way it's been taught in the world, if you keep the commandments, you are violating. I have been called a legalist because I say you got to keep the commandments. But sometimes when people don't know the difference in apples and oranges, in order for you to show them the difference, you have to get an apple and the orange and set it on the table at the same time. Because when Peter made the statement that Paul's writing was hard to be understood, sisters and brothers, he wasn't making no light statement. Because Paul talks about both laws, but if you are not versed in the Word of God, you don't know which is which. So you end up thinking that the Lord to nail the commandments to the wall, to the cross, and you don't have to keep them anymore. You make a statement like, the Lord let you know, the Lord know you can't keep them old hard laws. I got a problem with that. If the God that I serve know I can't keep something, why is he going to give it to me and set me up for failure? That comes along with consequences. But we're going to look at this, sisters and brothers. We're going to start in Exodus, the 19th chapter, because we're going to start with this raw law, and we're going to read these commandments. Nobody ever read all the commandments. We're going to do it today. So, but people don't understand that the commandment was so important till God gave them in person. He didn't entrust this to the hand of an angel. He gave this to them in person. Now we're going to start at Exodus the 19th chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Exodus 19 and verse 1. Okay, read it.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness.
Go ahead.
And there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel.
See, the Lord wasn't dealing with no priesthood. Levitical priesthood hadn't been set up or nothing. It was just Moses and the Lord. This is the communication link. So the Lord called Moses up and said, I want you to get his message to the children of Israel. Go ahead and read.
Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians.
Go ahead.
And how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself.
Go ahead.
Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
Now right away the Lord let Israel know, if you will keep my statutes and my judgment, you will be a peculiar people, and you will be above all the people. God made some great big offerings to Israel, and we didn't have sense enough to take them. But skip down to verse 8. Verse 8 and go ahead.
And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do.
Now, they said that. Israel always making statements that he don't mean. But go ahead and read.
And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses,
go ahead.
Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee.
Go ahead.
And believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord.
Now the Lord heard them when they said, all that the Lord said we were going to do. So the Lord said, okay, I'm going to come in a thick cloud. I'm going to speak to you face to face, mouth to mouth. So Moses went and told them what the Lord said. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow.
Go ahead.
And let them wash their clothes.
Go ahead.
And be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai.
He didn't say in the third day he's going to send an angel. He said, I want you to tell them that the Lord going to come. I'm coming myself. And I'm going to come on the third day before the people of all on Mount Sinai. I'm going to do it, not an angel. Skip down to verse 17 and go ahead.
And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the nether part of the mount.
Go ahead.
And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace.
Now, why would the Lord go through all this with the law that he's going to throw in the garbage can? So he came down and he descended on that mountain, and he had smoke and fire, but the Lord had that for a reason. He didn't want you to see nothing, because man got this problem. When he sees something, he wants to make an image of it and bow down to it. He didn't want you to do that. But go ahead and read.
And the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. So
Moses spoke, and God answered by a voice. Now let's see what God said when he answered him. We're going to go to the 20th chapter of Exodus. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Listen, sisters and brothers, nobody heard this. Nobody heard this. Everybody got a God before them. You got the people that have the sun god. That's why they worship on Sunday. In fact, the sun is the biggest thing. Mitra, sun worshipers. Egyptian Ra, sun worshipers. All of them got a God before him. But he is the God that created everything. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God,
go ahead,
visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Now, you look at the biggest church on the whole earth, Catholic Church. They don't believe this because they got images everywhere. When you walk on the premises, images in the yard, images on the wall, images behind the altar, everywhere, and you're going to go there and you're going to bow down and say, this is the word of God. That's a direct conflict with God's commandments.
Right.
And somebody needs to pay attention. Where's all your respect for this big? And then they're going to tell you that we are a part of a cup. I guess serving God is a cup. You don't see no images around here nowhere, do you?
No.
Ain't going to see none on the inside, on the outside, even on the streets. Go ahead and read.
And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
That's why all these people running around making jokes, using the name of the Lord in their jokes. Be careful. Go ahead and read.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
And that was the second most important thing to God, is the Sabbath day. This day. He said, remember it and keep it holy. Go ahead.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God.
Go ahead.
In it thou shalt not do any work. Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant.
Go ahead.
Nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
Now, you're not supposed to do any work on this day. But unfortunately, sisters and brothers, God have us in this captivity, and we are under the government of somebody else. Sometimes we have to work in order to eat. That's why Jesus said, just like your ox falling in the well on the Sabbath day.
That's right.
You do it until you can do better. Because a lot of brothers using this, well, you know, it's a Sabbath day, I can't take that job, I can't take that job. But then you call in and say, brother boy, could you help me pay my rent? Next month, you know, we short on grocery. I said, what you short on, brother, is a will to work. You go to work, pray to God, he'll fix it for you. So people don't understand when the Israel and God started, when me and Johnny was in business together, we had to serve these people because we little old black heating and cooling company. I used to show up with my uniform on. Because I done did a job that morning. I come and I get through teaching the class. Then I got to go back to work. The first holiday I spent with the Israeli God was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I was working for a company then. I had to work on that day. But by the time the next time rolled around, through my prayer, the Lord had fixed it. I had to eat. You understand what I'm saying? But still, if you don't have to do nothing on this day and you do it, don't think God is a fool. He know you don't have to do nothing.
That's right.
That's why I can't understand why people get here late. Now, I got about probably another 100 or so people that are going to get here. And they ain't going to know what's going on in here. Because the lesson that way we teach in the Israel of God, if you don't get in on the ground floor, you be trying to catch up all the time. Then you want to call and ask me questions all next week. Well, brother, what do you say about this? What if you had been in class, you would have heard it. So remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Go ahead and read.
Verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is.
Go ahead.
And rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Now he blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. And somebody say, well, you know, every day is the Sabbath. This is the only one that I saw that the Lord blessed and hallowed. Go ahead and read.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Now honor thy father and thy mother.
That thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
And you don't have an addendum to that. It don't say if they are, you have to honor them, sister and brother. That don't mean that you got to, if your father and mother want you to do something wrong, that you do, no, you don't do that. But if you're going to get back talk to your child and you back talking to your parent and you talking crazy and you acting stupid, then the Lord said your days could be short. And most people, young men and women that always rebel against their parent, something happened to them down the line. But he said, honor your father and your mother. It didn't say if they honor you.
That's right.
If they dishonor you, that's on them. Remember, Moses smote the rock and told Israel to drink you rebels, and Israel was rebels. But God said, for that, Moses, you ain't going to get into the promised land. Honor your father and your mother. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Go ahead.
Nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
As the Lord said, thou shalt not cover anything that is your neighbor. I see people on the job, somebody get a promotion and they didn't, they mad. What you mad for? You'd have took it if you had got it. Come on, give me a break. You understand? You jealous of somebody because they got a car that's bigger and shiner than yours. If you had the money, you'd get one big and shiny. So why are you jealous and mad at somebody for having something that you want? That's why the Lord tell you not to rejoice when he is taking your enemy down. Because if you do, he's going to stop rejoicing. He's going to stop taking them down. Why? It's because you have become your enemy. You had a same evil mindset that he had. So why should the Lord bless you and whip your enemy and you and become him?
That's right.
Covet nothing that is thy neighbor. What verse are we?
That was the end of 17.
Go ahead.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
Now they couldn't take no more of it. Go ahead.
And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die.
Now they don't. Now man is the one that didn't want to speak with God first, didn't he? Maybe God would have spoke to him more and more. Well, he did hang out with Israel for a while, but he said, look, we don't want to speak to God no more because it might kill us. Finish that.
And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God has come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not.
See, the whole thing is Israel ain't supposed to be like other people. God came and he proved Israel. You understand? Right. That was the end of what verse?
That was the end of 20.
Now, he came and he showed us that who he was. He gave us this commandment, sisters and brothers. And he didn't give us it for us to change it. Now, let's pursue it a little further. Let's go into Exodus, the 24th chapter. Exodus chapter 24. Because the Lord gave this and he wanted us to keep it. And to show you how much he wanted us to keep it, he decided he's going to write it down. 24, and we're going to read one verse. We're going to read verse 12. Exodus 24 and verse 12. Read it.
And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law, and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. He
said, I want you to come on up here, Moses, because I'm going to give you a law and a commandment which I wrote myself, and I want you to keep them. So Moses went up. So let's go into Exodus, the 32nd chapter. Exodus chapter 32. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. 32 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him,
go ahead.
Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we want not what is become of him.
Boy, I'm telling you something, this people is up, man. Up, make us God. The first thing the Lord said, thou shalt have no other God before me. Then second to ask for this Moses, like he's some stranger that walks in the camp and said, look, I'm the leader, follow me. We don't know what become of him. And now look at Aaron. Go ahead and read.
And Aaron said unto them, break off the golden earrings which are on the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters.
Now this is the guy that the Lord made the high priest.
Yeah.
He's the biggest violator. Might be a messenger in there. Go ahead and read.
And bring them unto me. And all the people break off the golden earrings which were in their ears.
Go ahead.
And brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand and fashioned it with the graving tool.
Go ahead.
After he had made it of molten calf.
Go ahead.
And they said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
Look, every time I read this, I can't think, how can anybody be this stupid? Every one of them knew that they had that gold in their ear when they come out of Egypt. You take the earrings and you give them to a man and he make a calf and tell you that these be the gods that brought you out of Egypt and you go for it? No wonder people are so gullible. We are the children of our parents.
That's right.
People can feed us anything. If you can eat that, you can eat anything. Skip down to verse 7 and read it.
And the Lord said unto Moses, go, get thee down, for thy people which thou broughtest up out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves.
He didn't even want to own them no more. He told Moses, your people that you brought up out of Egypt, they done corrupted themselves. Skip down to verse 15. Let's see what happened when Moses got down there. Go ahead and read.
And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the two tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides.
Go ahead.
On the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, graving upon the tables.
Now the Lord took all that time, 40 days. He wrote these, and he spoke to Moses all that time. He wrote them with his own finger in stone, sister and brother. That means this is etched in stone. Ain't no change in here.
That's right.
Ain't no changing. But what did happen when Moses got down now? Skip down to verse 19. Verse 19 and go ahead.
And it came to pass as soon as he came nigh to the camp that he saw the calf.
Go ahead.
And the dancing. And Moses' anger waxed hot.
Go ahead.
And he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount.
So now Moses get out there, and what he do? He see Israel doing everything what he always liked to do: have fun and dance all the time. That's when I look at TV commercials. They see other people getting out talking. When they bring on Israel, we got to gyrate on the stage. Makes me sick.
I'm telling you.
Because they're telling you ain't got nothing in there. You have to communicate with your body. But I see that was an early trait that we had. Right. Moses got so mad that he threw them tables of stone down and broke both of them. Well, that should have been the end of it. They don't want it anyway. But then it ain't about what they want. It's about what God wants. Mm-hmm. Now let's go into Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 10. Because it is good for us to understand how important these commandments are to God. And people are going to try to use the writing of Paul to reverse the word of God. Paul was a man. God is God. Nobody reverses his writing. If you think that it looked like Paul reversed something, you roll with God. That's what I call, if it's going to be an error on the safe side.
That's right.
But God don't make no error. So now Moses broke these, and look what the Lord said concerning Moses. Verse 1. Go ahead and read.
At that time the Lord said unto me, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and come up unto me into the mount, and make thee an ark of wood.
So I want you to hear out 2 more, just like there was in the beginning. Come on, and I want to make you an ark of wood. Just a little thing that I'm going to put them in. Go ahead and read.
And I'll write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt put them in the ark.
Now I'm going to write the same words. I ain't going to come up with something new. Go ahead and read.
And I made an ark of shittim wood, and hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and went up into the mount, having the 2 tables in mine hand.
Go ahead.
And he wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And the Lord gave them unto me.
So what did he write? He wrote the same thing that he wrote on the other stone. The 10 commandments, the same thing that he spoke to Israel face to face. Now he done spoke them to you. He written them. Moses broke them, he rewrote them, and sent them to you. You would think that God wants these commandments to be kept, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
And now Israel, what does the Lord thy God require of thee?
Go ahead.
But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him. And to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
So this is what the Lord requires of you. He's telling you. You don't have to be one, I wonder what the Lord want me to do. He's telling you right now. Read the next verse. Go ahead.
To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes.
To keep the commandments of the Lord, that's the 10, and his statutes, that's the dietary law. And stuff like that, and the cleanliness law. Those are the statutes, sisters and brothers. This is what he required of you. Go ahead and read.
Which I command thee this day for thy good.
Which I command thee this day for thy good. Because that day covers all days. Skip down to verse 16. Verse 16 and read it.
Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked.
So now, he says, so circumcise the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked. You know what people teaching nowadays as far as the circumcision is concerned? See, it's new now. See, all you got to do is circumcise the foreskin of your mind now. You don't have to do the flesh. Wait a minute. Then Moses should have told him, circumcise the foreskin of your heart and don't do the flesh no more. He didn't say that,
did he? Say that.
You always, if anybody that is going to obey God, the first circumcision, male or female, they have to make is the foreskin of their mind. In other words, don't be stiff-necked no more. Obey what thus said the Lord. That is so simple, sister and brother. So next time, you make you a little note. Next time some Sunday Christian come to you, tell me, we don't have to circumcise the boys no more, but we have to circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Then you hit them with that. So what's this mean here? You mean Moses stopped circumcising guys? It don't work like that. Look at what Joshua did when they crossed the Jordan River. First thing he did was stop. and circumcised all the male that was born in the wilderness. Joshua took over from Moses.
That's right.
But Moses is the one that's giving this message, sister and mother. So now, we see that this law was given to Israel in the wilderness. Now, concerning this law, we're going to look at it because another law popped up on the scene, and they said that this is this law. Let's go into Galatians, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to look at this other law, came by way of the Apostle Paul. Nothing wrong with Paul's writing if you can understand it. And if you got some understanding, if you see some wrong, you know that too. Galatians, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. See, we have to do things like this because Paul just used the word law, law, law. You see the book law, law. But what law? This is the whole thing in a nutshell. You get some foolish people trying to think, well, you got X amount of laws in the Bible. Which one do you obey? I said the ones that the Lord said obey. Galatians 3, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Galatians 3 and 1. Go ahead and read.
O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you,
go ahead,
that you should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Jesus Christ has been evidently set forth.
Now he want to know, who's bewitched you that you shall not obey the truth? Because somebody done turned around and what they wanted them to do, it terminated the blood of Jesus. Go ahead and read.
Crucified among you. This only what I learn of you. Receive ye the Spirit by the works of the law or by the hearing of faith?
Now, the works of the law could be talking about the 10 Commandments also, but this is not talking about the 10 Commandments. These are the works of the law from the hearing of faith. Have you ever heard faith talk? That's why you have to look at this. It's what you mean the hearing of faith. Should be by the hearing on the word that you should believe or you should have faith in.
That's right.
Skip down to verse 6, and let me show you what I'm saying. Go ahead and read.
Even as Abraham believed God.
Even as Abraham believed God. In other words, he had faith in God. Go ahead and read.
And it was accounted to him for righteousness. Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham.
So now if you believe God just like Abraham believed God, then you are a child of faith because you believe God just like Abraham did. Faith ain't no individual. You think it was an individual when faith came. But go ahead and read.
And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, in these shall all nations be blessed.
What you mean justify the heathen or the nation through faith? Through their belief, sisters and brothers. But that ain't no different from Israel. Right. The one that believes, that's the one that he justifies.
That's right.
If you don't believe, he don't justify. So we're talking belief here, as opposed to some law. Skip down to verse 9. Go ahead.
So then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham.
So if you're of faith, you're blessed with Abraham. In fact, you have to be, if you're Christ, then you're Abraham's seed. But skip now to verse 11 and read it.
But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God, it is evident, for the just shall live by faith.
See, when they read this, they try to say, well, see, you ain't justified by keeping the commandments. I won't tell you this here. If you get under the blood, if you don't keep them commandments, then you just got blooded up. Because you still going to die forever. But it says here, but no man is justified by the law in the sight of God. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith. Skip down to verse 15 and go ahead.
Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be but a man's covenant.
Go ahead.
Yet if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth or addeth thereto.
So now he's going to talk about this covenant between Abraham and God. He said, if it be confirmed, no man added to it or disannul or take anything from it. So now, if whatever the covenant God made with Abraham, you can't add to it or take from it. So if you want to know what God did with Abraham, go read. He gave Abraham the covenant. You understand?
That's right.
And he gave him the circumcision. And then he told Abraham, any stranger that's bought with money, he got to be circumcised too. That money represents being purchased with the blood of Jesus. So now, if you can't change it, then everybody, male, has to be circumcised, whether he Israel or a stranger. You can't add to it or take nothing from it. Go ahead and read. What verse was that?
That was the end of 15.
Go ahead and read.
Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not unto seeds as of many,
go ahead,
but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ.
Now look, what you mean to one and not as many, which is Christ? Because the seed that he said when Abraham got ready to sacrifice Isaac, the Lord said, don't lay a hand on the child. So because you have done this, and you would not withhold your son, your only son, from me, he said, in blessing, I'm going to bless you. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. And that seed is Jesus, sisters and brothers. Why? Because Abraham obeyed the Lord. Okay, go ahead and read.
And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, was 430 years after, cannot disannul.
So go ahead, finish it.
That it should make the promise of none effect.
So this covenant that came 430 years later, after the promise that God had made with Abraham, it can't wipe out the covenant. This law can't do it. So what law that came 430 years after Abraham? Well, let's find us the 430 years. And let's look at it. Let's go into Exodus the 12th chapter. Because it's going back to Israel, sister and brother, when Israel was in captivity of Egypt. Then the Lord sprung Israel. Exodus chapter 12. Because what we want to do is we're going to put it on the table and we're going to dissect this thing. We're going to look at it and see what's going on here. I don't believe in belief. I believe in matters of fact. So the Lord told Israel that he was going to come through Egypt and he was going to kill all the firstborn. And he told Israel, first thing, that's why your faith really saved Israel. He said, look, I'm going to kill all the firstborn of man and beast. So I want you to kill a lamb. Put him up on the 10th day of the month. Kill him on the 14th day of the month. And I want you to take his blood and put it over your doorpost. Because I'm going to come through Egypt and I'm going to smite the firstborn of every household. And when I see the blood, he didn't say when I see the Israelite. When I see the blood, I'm going to pass over that house. In other words, I don't care how sinful you are. If you hid under the blood, I'm going to pass over you and your sin. Mm-hmm. So now, God came through and he did that. And anybody that didn't have the blood over their doorpost, they died. You know why? Because the just have always lived by faith. It just didn't start with Paul's right. So we're going to start at verse 29. Verse 29. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon.
Go ahead.
And all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead.
So wherever the blood was not covered, God killed them all, man and beast. Go ahead and read.
And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people.
Go ahead.
Both you and the children of Israel. And go, serve the Lord as ye have said.
Now, they had enough. Lord had laid 9 plagues on them. When they hit him with that 10th one, it was enough.
That was it.
Kill the firstborn. So what happened? Skip down to verse 40. Verse 40 and go ahead.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
Oh, so that's what Paul was talking about in the Galatians. He said the law which came 430 years.
That's right.
Because this law came after Israel had been sprung from Egypt. Go and finish that.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt.
So now this is the 400 years that Paul was alluding to when he said the law which came 430 years later cannot disannul or make avoid the promise that God made with Abraham. Now let's go back to Galatians, the 3rd chapter. Should have told you to keep your spot there. But that's all right. We're going to take our time. Maybe the regular stragglers will be in here before it's over with. Galatians, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to start reading this time at 18. Galatians 3, because we left off at 17, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we're going to start reading at verse 18, 3 and 18. Okay, go ahead.
For the inheritance be of the law, it is no more promise.
See, but the Lord promised Abraham and his seed if they kept the faith, didn't it?
That's right.
So it wouldn't be, so the inheritance is not about be of the law. It is no more, if it's out of law, it's no more promise. Go ahead and read.
But God gave it to Abraham by promise.
Ain't that something? So if it's by the law, it ain't no promise. What law is this? Go ahead and read.
Wherefore then serveth the law?
Why then serve the law?
It was added because of transgression.
It was added because of transgression. And how long is this supposed to be around? Go ahead.
Till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator.
So this law was added because of a promise. Until the seed come unto whom the Lord had made it. That seed was Jesus, sister and brother. Because of a promise. But thing I got to say, though, when I read this, it said, wherefore then serve the law? It was added because of transgression. Transgression of what? Let's go find out. Let's go into 1 John, the 3rd chapter. 1 John, the 3rd chapter. Because what we got to do, sister and brother, you have to read this book, and you don't come up and start thinking that the Lord did something that he didn't do.
That's right.
1 John 3 and verse 4. 1 John 3 and verse 4. 3 and 4. Read it.
Whosoever committed sin transgressed also the law.
Oh, so that's what they transgressed. So transgression means break.
That's right.
So whosoever committed sin, they have broken the law. Go ahead and read.
For sin is the transgression of the law.
For sin is the transgression of the law. Now look here, sisters and brothers. We have people that teach that the commandments was added because of transgression. But wait a minute. How is it that you can transgress a law that's not in existence? Sin is the transgression of the law. This is the biblical definition of sin. Now you want to get rid of sin? Get rid of the law. And I see Satan is busy. He's going to take the law off the table so everything is straight.
That's what he's trying to do.
So it was added because of transgression. And the transgression of what? The law, sisters and brothers. The law. So now, if the commandments was not in play until Israel came out of Egypt, then God killed Adam for nothing, didn't he? How could he sin and there ain't no law?
Can't sin.
Kill Adam for nothing. All them people from Adam clean on down until Israel come up out of the wilderness, all of them should have been living.
That's right.
And then the people, after God gave the commandment, then them after Israel got the commandment, then God should have killed them from that day on. Think about what we're reading here, sisters and brothers. So God killed Adam for nothing. But the law was always there, sisters and brothers. And let me show you why. Let's go up to Romans, back up to Romans, 5th chapter. Romans chapter 5. See, read these people down, they don't know what to say. Everybody wants to get rid of the law. Because if you get rid of the law, everything is fair game. Ain't got no problem with that. I wouldn't whine if he took away the law. But being that it's here, I'm going to keep it. Not because I'm a good brother. I'm going to keep it because I'm scared of God.
I hear you.
Fear is what keeps me.
I hear you.
Brother asked me one time, man, what if there ain't no resurrection? I said, but what if it is?
That's right. That's right.
I'd rather go with the what if it ain't. What if it is, brother, and don't wake up, than to go with what if it ain't, and I wake up and I'm looking at that fire. I don't wake up, books are dead, know nothing, so skip it. I just be dead.
That's right. Don't know.
So I ain't gonna roll the dice. Romans 5 and verse 12. Romans 5 and 12. Because sisters and brothers, this is why we know that this law is here. 5 and 12. Go ahead.
Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world.
Oh, so that one man is Adam, ain't it?
That's right.
So that means the law had to be there.
That's right.
Because what is the definition, the biblical definition of sin?
The transgression of the law.
And ain't smoking and drinking, is it?
Mm-mm.
So by one man sin entered into the world. Go ahead and read.
And death by sin.
And death by sin.
And so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned.
So man, that law been around all the time. Go ahead.
For until the law, sin was in the world.
For until the law, sin was in the world.
But sin is not imputed when there is no law.
That's self-explanatory, ain't it? So until the law, what law? Until the law of animal sacrifice.
That's right.
Was put on the table, sin was already here. You know why? Because if it was a commandment, then sin would never arrive, because sin is not imputed when there is no law. Got a stop sign up here. As long as the sign is green, you can drive. When the light's turning red, you got to stop. That's the law. If the light is red, you stop. If you don't stop, then there are consequences. You get a ticket. It's all that simple. It's just like that corner where I go, you know, on Wentworth, when I go around and take the quick way to my house. One never stop sign there. I just go boom, going on. One day I come and got turned, the car pulled up, I almost hit him. Boom, he called it boom, 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 and gave me a few expletive leaders, and I'm wondering what he talking about. Then I looked over there, they had put a stop sign there. All of a sudden now, there was a law, and I had violated the law. Almost had an accident. So the law has always been here. So now, what then that was added? The law of animal sacrifice.
That's right.
But if you don't know that, and you don't know what sin is, and you don't know about the law, having to have a law to break in order to sin, then you can say the law is done away with. Look, sisters and brothers, when the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt, he didn't require no animal sacrifice. He just said, obey my voice. Mm-hmm. Let's go look at it. Let's go into Jeremiah, the 7th chapter. Jeremiah chapter 7. So these things, all you got to do is look at it. Jeremiah chapter 7. And we're going to start at verse 21. Jeremiah chapter 7. And we're going to start reading at verse 21. 7 and 21. Jeremiah 7 and verse 21. See, the Lord, it's all here, sisters and brothers. All you got to do is read this book. God didn't require no sacrifices for sin. You know, man always did some sacrifice, like Noah and all, but he was what you call thankful offering, peace offering, and heave offering, showing your gratitude to God. But it was no sin offering. But now, this is what God required. Verse 21, go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, put your burnt offerings into your sacrifices and eat flesh.
He said, look, if you're going to cook and do it to eat with. You understand?
That's right.
Why? Go ahead and read.
For I spake not unto your fathers nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices.
Did he mention that when he gave them the commandments?
No.
He didn't even mention it. He said, I didn't speak to your fathers concerning burnt offerings and sacrifices. I'm going to tell you what I told your fathers to do. Go ahead and read.
But this thing commanded I them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and ye shall be my people, and walk you in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well unto you.
He said, this is what I told you to do. We read that, didn't we? Obey my voice and walk in my commandments.
That's right.
And keep my statutes, and it will be well with you. But what did we do? Go ahead and read.
But they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward.
So now when they did that, God had to do something. He could either kill them, or he's going to come up with an alternative. And that alternative, sisters and brothers, was sacrifices for sin. So he had to add a law. What law was that? The law of animal sacrifice. See, the Lord already, when the Israel come up, the Lord had a tabernacle made, sisters and brothers. And this is what people don't pay no attention to, didn't know. He didn't make that tabernacle and put the veil and all that stuff in there so you can come and kill animals. He made it because he said he wanted to dwell among you. And anybody that wanted to speak with him, they could come. It's just like when Moses, when he went in, he spoke to the Lord from above the mercy seat, from between the cherub angels in the tabernacle. And when the Lord moved the tabernacle, then I learned something. When he had Moses to move the tabernacle, you know, you can read that in Exodus the 33rd chapter, verse 7. When he got tired and Moses moved the tabernacle, it said then, from that time on, anybody that sought the Lord went outside of the camp to the tabernacle. Anybody. Didn't say nothing about no priest. You didn't have to go in there and kill nothing because you hadn't had no animal sacrifice instituted yet. It was for you going and communicating with your God. But because Israel sinned, then God turned that veil in there, where you're supposed to stand before and talk through the veil to your God. He turned it into a place where you made sin offerings with the blood of animals. Then you had to go to a high priest because now you need an intercessor. God ain't gonna so God ain't dealing with no directly face to face with no sinner. He deal with him through an intercessor. So who was your intercessor? The high priest, sisters and brothers. So all of a sudden now, this tabernacle, which God made to dwell among you, had his veil used to make an atonement for sinners. But let's look at this tabernacle. Let's go into Exodus the 25th chapter. Exodus chapter 25. See, people don't understand. When God made the tabernacle of the congregation, it wasn't for them to go in and sprinkle blood and all that for sin offering. Moses went there and talked, and anybody that wanted to go and talk to the Lord, they could go talk to him. Just like the book said in 33rd chapter of Exodus. Anyone that sought the Lord went out of the camp to the tabernacle. The Lord made it so clear. God made a lot of good things for us, and we made them into something ugly. Exodus 25, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Exodus 25 and verse 1. Because this thing, the Lord just wanted to dwell among his people. Always did. He was there with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
That's right.
He liked being around his creation. Until it got so putrid and low down that he had to leave the earth to keep from killing us. Verse 1, 25 and 1. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Go ahead.
Speaking to the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering of every man they giveth it willingly with his heart, ye shall take my offering.
He said, I want you to bring me an offering. See, the Lord could build anything he wants, but he required his man to show fruits of salvation. In other words, you need some works. Skip down to verse 8. Because what are they going to do with this offering? Go ahead and read.
And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them.
Because the Lord wanted to dwell there. When you tell people that the Lord used to dwell among the children of Israel, they don't want to believe it. You read the Bible where you know, well, I know what the Bible said, but wait a minute. You're supposed to be a Christian or whatever. If the book said God going to dwell among you, then what did God do? You either going to believe it or you not. It's all that simple. Go ahead and read.
According to all that I show thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall you make it.
So now the Lord said, I want you to do it just exactly the way I want. I want you to put the tabernacle and the instruments, everything in it. Now let's go into the 26th chapter of Exodus. And we're going to read verse 1 and we're going to skip. 26 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen and blue and purple and scarlet. With cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them.
Now he's telling them how he do it. See, God told Israel everything. You have no need to guess about nothing. Now skip now to verse 30. Verse 30 and go ahead.
And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was showed thee in the mount. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen of cunning work. With cherubim shall it be made.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood overlaid with gold. Their hook shall be of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver.
Now he said, they're going to make me a veil. And I'm going to tell you how you're going to hang it. With the best of everything. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy.
He said, now this veil going to divide between the holy and the most holy. When you went in front of the veil, you was in the holy place. The most holy was behind the veil, where the ark of the covenant and the mercy seat, which represent where the Lord is supposed to be. Like another scripture in another lesson tell you that Moses went in there and he spoke and he said he heard a voice from above the mercy seat between the chair, in between the 2 chairs. In other words, the Lord was speaking to Moses right there in the tabernacle. He was there, sister and brother. But then nobody wanted it. Don't nobody believe it. So now he was there. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place.
Now the most holy place, that's where the Lord is. The people now outside in the holy place, then that's where the people went and talked with the Lord. That is before sin offering was instituted. But then man sinned against God. All of a sudden now, you couldn't come directly to God. You had to have a priest come and plead your cause. And then the priest had to bring blood.
That's right.
And even for himself. So let's go into Leviticus, the 4th chapter. See, because the tabernacle of the congregation was simply there so the Lord could dwell among his people. But his people got so low down and started sinning, he said, I got to say something or do something. I'm going to kill all these people. First thing is, he told Moses, move the tabernacle. I can't stay among these people unless I break out on them and kill them all.
That's right.
I'm going to send my angel before you. But later on, they kept doing it. He said, I got to start killing these people. So I got to come up with a way to keep from killing them all. So he instituted animal sacrifice. So now, when you commit a sin, you had to go through a ritual to keep from dying. Leviticus 4 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Go ahead.
Speaking to the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them, if the priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin which he has sinned a young bullock without blemish unto the Lord for a sin offering.
Now that's when the sin offering was instituted. Go ahead and read.
And he shall bring the bullock into the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord, and shall lay his hand upon the bullock's head and kill the bullock before the Lord.
Go ahead.
And the priest that is anointed shall take of the bullock's blood and bring it to the tabernacle of the congregation.
So now, man couldn't do it for himself. So he had to get the anointed priest. Even a helper couldn't do this. The priest that is anointed, that means the high priest. He had to take some of the blood and come before the Lord to the tabernacle of the congregation. Go ahead and read.
And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle of the blood 7 times before the Lord, before the veil of the sanctuary.
So now if the priest sinned, if the people sinned, individuals sinned, they had to kill a young bullock, give the blood to the priest that's anointed. He goes into the tabernacle, into the holy place, and he sprinkled the blood 7 times before the veil. Why 7 times? Because God gave man 7 days, and man gonna sin every one of them. Right. Even the last one, which is 1,000-year millennium. That's right. Why he's gonna kill people.
That's right.
Everyone. Mm-hmm. Skip down to verse 13. Verse 13 and go ahead.
And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance.
Now if the whole nation sin through ignorance, go ahead and read.
And the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty. When the sin which they have sinned against it is known, then the congregation shall offer a young bullock for the sin, and bring him before the tabernacle of the congregation.
Now, so the congregation had to offer a young bullock for sin and bring him before the tabernacle of the congregation. Go ahead and read.
And the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands upon the head of the bullock before the Lord.
Go ahead.
And the bullock shall be killed before the Lord.
Go ahead.
And the priest that is anointed shall bring of the bullock's blood to the tabernacle of the congregation.
Go ahead.
And the priest shall dip his finger in some of the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord, even before the veil.
So now if the whole congregation sinned, then they had to bring a young bull in there. They had to kill a bull. Then they had to get the blood, the priest, to the high priest. That's the anointed priest. And he went before the veil, and he sprinkled the blood before the veil, sisters and brothers. And what were they supposed to do? Skip down and read verse 20. Verse 20, go ahead.
And he shall do with the bullock as he did with the bullock for a sin offering, so shall he do with this. And the priest shall make an atonement for them, and it shall be forgiven them.
But look, sisters and brothers, they made an atonement, but that wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. Why was it not good enough? Because you still couldn't get eternal life from it.
That's right.
Thank you for tuning in to today's lesson. If you are in the Chicagoland area, we welcome you to join our church community every Saturday at 12 noon Central. We are located at 520 West 138th Street in Riverdale, Illinois. Our ministry is made possible by your donations. To make a donation or to view all of our locations across the world, please visit our website at www.theisraelofgod.com.